Hey everyone, it's your highly melanated BFF, John, also known as DoctorJonPaul.
And Jordan, also known as Joho, from the one and the only award-winning show, the
Black.Fat.Femme
Podcast.
Guess what, everyone? Drum roll, please.
The BFF Experience is back for another year on October 12th.
At the Diversionary Theater in San Diego, California.
This year we'll have performances from Amber St. James and Strawberry Corn Cakes with guest panelists Angel Mawa and Kelsey Daniels.
Doors will be open at 6:30 p.m. and you can grab your tickets at diversionary.org/Clark Cabaret.
Keep listening to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ooh, I know that's right. The Black.Fat.Femme podcast is a production of iHeartRadio and Dr. John Paul, LLC. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black.Fat.Femme podcast where all the intersections of identity are celebrated. I'm one of your hosts, John, also known as Dr. John Paul, and I don't know about y'all, but I am looking at October like, girl, come in here and sit your ass down. Don't touch nothing. Don't ask for nothing. There won't be nothing. Because September has Septembered the way Septembered has never Septembered before, and I'm just looking around going, we can't go on this way. People going to jail. People are dying left and right. It is just, it's a lot, girl. It's a lot.
People are dying, Kim.
It really is. But how are you? If one more person dies this month, I am like, can we not? But anyway, how are you doing, Queen Joho?
Wow, that took a turn that I did not see coming. I thought you were welcoming October with open arms, but you are welcoming October without the welcoming. You're like, girl, just shut the fuck up. I am excited that it's October because it is my season.
Yeah, it's your birthday
spooky season
too.
Is my birthday, my birth month. I'm a spooky girly.
Yes.
Was it the autumnal equinox was last week?
Yeah, well,
it's officially Libra season. Like it's all good things, but all to say, y'all, it's still your sad girl and be sad as in seasonal anxiety depression. Co-host Joho, Jordan, whatever you want to call me, girl. And I do feel like my powers are coming back to life this season.
Okay.
Also, like it's a year I turned 30, so I'm really just like, well, I feel like I'm deep. So it's right. So right now, like Jewishly, we're in this month called Elul, and so this next week is gonna be Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, and then it inspires and then brings in the 10 days of awe before Yom Kippur, which is like the close of the Jewish New Year, and so for after next week will be the 10 days of awe, where you essentially have 10 days Jewishly to like ensure that your name is written in the book, inscribed in the book of life or the book of the wicked, and like. And so this whole month is a period of reflection for the past year, Jewishly. Yeah. Because that's my 30th, it's like all the reflections are hitting me deep. And I'm like,
yeah, girl.
Oh my God.
30 is the year
Bobby,
for 30. That. 30 is the year for that. I will tell you, 30 came in for me and it was heavy. Like I've never felt the heaviness that I felt around 30. 40, I feel like it's going to be easier for me, but 30 was heavy.
I think because 30 socially has all this pressure. Like 30 is like, I'm unmarried. I'm a childless cat lady, right? Like I'm unmarried, I'm unwed, unbetrothed. Very much single, no kids. Like at 30, people are like, people are like, you should be XYZ, right? Like people are like shitting all over you, right? And so I think at 30, it's like it hasn't really bothered me so much, but now at 30, I'm like, what is my life like, right? Like when will I settle down? How do I want to? Do I want to? What I don't feel 30. Like I feel like I'm still very much in my 20s. Like I feel like that energy I give off. And so what does it mean to be 30? It's just, it's a thing where like, okay, like, yes, aging, nothing but a number, but also something feels
society puts it
different
on it.
and bigger and more pressure. But I'm planning my 30th birthday, and that is I will never.
Well, so I will say this. So I'm seeing you next week in person. We are actually recording next week's episode in person, and there's more coming. There's more to come with that. But I was going to say, have you ever been to Cantor's? in LA.
Delhi,
Yeah,
Delhi.
the deli.
I actually have not.
Okay, we're gonna do that
Let's do
before
it. That
we dip out, and that'll
that'd
be
be
the way we can
amazing.
celebrate the birth. Because I know for your birthday, like I know the day and I know where it's gonna be, and I can't
Yeah,
be there
yeah.
because I'm in Chicago. But what I will say is that'll be the way that we can celebrate your birthday is just having a moment at Cantor's after we record, and we
That
can
sounds
celebrate in a
nice.
moment. So I'm excited that I get to see you in
Sounds
person.
good.
But we're gonna
Me too.
drive the boat and we're gonna get this show on the road. And so the way that we always do is we celebrate Miss Tisha Campbell by giving her flowers in the segment that we call Still Here. And I recognize that me and you both, Joho, are working girlies. And it's funny because I always think conference season, like conferences happen all the time, but there's this weird
Mhm.
chunk of time between like October and like March where it's like every
The
single
fall,
month.
winter time is a
Yeah.
big conference. Yeah.
Everybody and a mama is throwing some type of conference, is doing some type of conference, and is ultimately saying, come to this conference and learn something. So, with that being said, I did want to ask you, considering that you just came from one, what are your do's and don'ts or your loves and hates
Mm.
of conferences? I know for me, I love this question because you know me, girl. These days, I'm not going to a conference unless I am being
She
booked to
says, "I
speak.
don't pay to go, I get paid to
Hello,
go."
I'm not going to
Okay.
nobody's conference
How
unless
you
I
doing?
am on the itinerary to speak.
How you doing?
9 times out of 10, I'm keynoting that conference, but check my credentials, right? But with that being
Okay.
said, most seriously though, conferences are usually hard for me because and I tell people this all the time and people don't believe it. Like, yes, I'm very, very friendly and I'm very vocal and I love to be like, I love the energies of people, but I can only really do interaction with people that I don't know in very limited quantities. And conferences
Mhm.
really drag it out for me. Like, I often find myself sitting in rooms with people and being like, oh my God, this person really wants to be the person who's giving the presentation. And girl, it's not your time. It's not for you, girl. So I think for me, it's like I find conferences really hard in that way because when I have the mic, I can perform, but I'm also that girl of like when I'm in a space, I know when to step back, and a lot of people
Mm.
don't. So that's one of the things that make
Mm.
conferences very hard for me is knowing that there are a lot of people who want the mic because they either want to be the center of attention or they feel like they want to be the smartest person in the room. So honestly, for me, 2 to 3 sessions
Mhm.
tops in a day. And that's usually if I know the presenter. You're going to get 1 or 2 out of me if I have no idea who you are and what you're presenting on. Because I'm
Period.
not just trying to be in a room to be in a room. I find conferences to be really about networking too and wanting to catch up with folks. And so oftentimes too, when I go to a conference, I'm always looking for other people I know who are there and trying to catch up with them and trying to see what's going on in their lives and how I can be a support for them. And no, I'm not going to the mixers unless there is some good food being offered because I'm gonna tell you right now, that's also that's also like a gag of these conferences. They'll say, "Come to this mixer," and then all they want to give you is some carrots and ranch, and I'm like, "Bitch, I'm hungry and tired."
You ain't even got a drink ticket. They make you pay for your own drinks too.
Girl,
Like, why am
not
I
doing
here?
that. Get somebody else to do it.
Oh, why is I here?
I will literally leave a mixer if all I see are like broccoli and it's not to say that I'm elitist in any sense. I'm just saying like I paid all of this money to come to this conference and the only thing that you're giving me during this mixer is some carrots and ranch. I'm going home. I could go to my room and order DoorDash. I'm not doing this.
Okay.
I'm not playing this game with y'all. But anyway, what about you, baby?
So first of all, I you made a good point about like the conference bestie, right? Because like you right, you have like your work,
Mm-hmm.
like your work bestie, but then you have conference besties where you always see at conferences. You have no idea who this person is. You never see them anywhere outside of this conference, but you see them at every conference you go to. You always see them there. Like you work in the same field. You're like, girl, we should. You know, it's like, girl, we should actually connect one day. We never actually connect, and so I love and hate that because I always see people that I know at conferences. I'm like, damn, girl, it's been a year since I saw you and you're alive, which is great.
Right.
But I will never. But I won't see you again until next year. So like let's not even try to act like we're gonna be friends. But also,
Mm-hmm.
like during this next 8 hours, you and I are besties.
Gee,
We're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
see each
yeah,
other
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. I
And
get it.
you know, so I love and hate that. I love this conference because I love this question because I was on a conference yesterday in LA, and the conference itself was great because it hit all my checks. The food was right. First of all, because conferences also play in your face because they're like conferences from like 9 to 5, right? But the opening is at 8 o'clock, and you know full well no one want to be there at 8 o'clock in the
Right,
morning.
right.
and unless you have the offering for me like a good ass meal.
Right.
And some people will just be having like continental. Here's some croissants, some pastries, and some fruit. But this place had like crustless quiche. They had smoked salmon
Oh
bagels.
wait, now
They had
hold
like
up.
they had little burritos. I said, oh.
Burritos.
Oh, they had lattes. I said, oh,
Oh, I
y'all
know
really,
that's right.
y'all splurged on bitch because
Yes.
if y'all had just had some fruits and some like fake ass pastries, I've been like, girl, you had me out here 8:15 in the morning for this.
Yeah.
So that was great. They had they had a morning meditation. They had like public art installations in like the main rooms, like like the main lobby. So whenever you went out, you could see some art, and the art was by disabled folks, by queer folks, by black
That's
folks, by
what's
trans.
up.
Super dope. They had several breakout spaces for people to relax. Like they had a quiet room where you can just go like be quiet, right? Like you just go in, you don't say shit, you don't work, you just be quiet. They had an outdoor terrace to get fresh air. They had tables in the lobby to work on if you need to take a call or something. Those are all pluses for me. Also, I do love the conference trade. Like a con cutie, if you will. You see, like there are some fine man conferences.
Yeah,
and
baby. They be having on their best slacks.
I be on the grid. I be on the grid like, interesting.
Yeah.
And people be freaky.
Love
at
that for
conferences.
you. Yes.
I'm like,
honey.
y'all be some freaks at conferences.
Yeah,
I see y'all.
baby.
Y'all be acting different.
Oh,
So
real
I'm always
different, honey.
like,
So I'll say this. I don't know where were you in 92, but no, back in I think it was like 2013 or 2014. Do you remember Yik Yak?
Yeah.
There was a whole to do
Yes.
at a conference because of Yik Yak, and then people
I
were acting
remember.
a fool at that conference
Yes.
because of Yik Yak, honey. And Yik Yak was getting yeah, girl.
It also will say like when you go to conferences that are like in your field with people that you really know and like colleagues and stuff, you see them differently. You're like,
yes, yeah.
Oh, like I've seen a few folks in my field that I'm like, oh, I didn't think you'd be on the grid, but also you saying some outlandish stuff on the grid right now. That's like okay, like I like yes, like I'm on the grid, but I keep it classy.
Right.
Like you will never catch me saying outlandish stuff about like my king. So that's
not
gonna be on my public profile, girl. So I was like, y'all wow.
So there's no shame over here.
No shame.
I'm not shaming nobody. I'm just saying
nobody's job.
people go to conferences.
I love your kings, but your boss might see that,
right?
And so you really need to think about
and
what that
people go
might
to these conferences and they wild out. I actually even remember there being a whole to do over somebody I knew back when I used to work in higher ed. There was a whole to do about somebody finding out that their husband was cheating at the conference, and it became this whole thing. And I'm like, baby, like y'all got to do better than this. Like
people doing the most in these wild streets. So those my pluses. My minuses are the people. Like people, like it just be a lot of people for no reason. People be up in your face. Like people like there are times like yes. I know that I present as an EV, an extrovert, okay, and I identify as an extrovert introvert is how I identify.
Yeah.
But there are people who you're like, girl, it's 8:30 right now. We ain't gotta talk about. We can just
pom-poms.
We can just eat our brekkie and call that a good day.
Yes.
Like people want me chit chat. People are like, oh my god, like where are you from? What do you do?
The roosters ain't even up, girl.
Or if they they'll hi. Read your name and then read your organization. What's your organization do, girl? You can just Google it.
Like
you see the name. Google me.
8:30 a.m.
Why is you here?
Why are you here?
So I can't stand that, and I really can't stand. And what I really hate the most about some conferences. This conference I went to was great, but some conferences I've been to waste people's time, like panels. A panel. I can't stand that panel.
Yes.
That has no calls to action. That gives nothing. It gives no actual information. Why are we gathered here today?
Why?
To talk. Why?
Do
not have me, okay? Do not have me in a panel for an hour and a half just to sit here and then walk away with nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely.
Why? Girl, this could have been a long email. Yeah. And I would have read that email, like, gladly.
I've been to 2 in the last couple of months where they have had multiple panels, and I've been like, why was who on the board of this
said this
was a great idea? Either way, though, everything ain't for everybody, and I get it. But what I will say is, the one piece of advice that I will give to folks who do the conferences and stuff too, this is just a reminder. Take care of yourself. Like I said, we're getting ready to go on a conference season. Take care of yourself. Know when to check in and check out. No, and I'm a big proponent of, if you're in your room and you just feel like, I don't see anything on that what is it, the agenda, whatever they give you at the beginning of the conference, right? Where 3 or 4 days and it tells you who's doing what where.
Yeah.
If you don't see, I'm a strong proponent of, if I don't see nothing on the schedule for that day, I'm staying in my room.
I'm going to it. Also, venue staff can make or break your experience. There are places with venue staff, trash, horrible people, so mean, so rude, disrespectful as fuck. And there are places with venue staff who are so amazing. Like, because the venue staff has to work well with the actual conference staff people. And there'll be times where I'm like, oh, y'all disconnected, and it's not giving.
Yeah,
it
makes not giving.
Especially if it's like a hotel where you're staying at.
Right. I will say, shout out to the staff. So I've gone to a few conferences at the New Orleans Convention Center, and what I will say is shout out to their staff. Their staff, every year that I've ever gone, I went to a conference there last year, and then I went to a conference there in 2021. And even Essence Fest, when I was at Essence Fest this summer, their staff was absolutely fantastic. So shout out to them. They definitely, but you are 3,000% right when you talk about conference staff being the people. But anyway, with that being said, while y'all go search for conference booty, we have to take a break to hear some messages from our sponsors.
Now, why am I in this? Why am I in this? Leave me alone.
Yes, God, Nessa, we will be back in a jiff. Chris, cue the music.
Hey fam, we are back, and for this week, for the category is segment, we've been watching Natasha Rothwell's new show on Hulu, How to Die Alone.
So good.
It's a good show. We're feeling simultaneously seen and dragged while watching it. So we want to talk more about the themes that this show has, like fear, being the fat friend, being too much, and everything in between. Now, we're going to try to not give away too much of the show as well, in case you haven't seen it yet. Right. If you haven't seen it yet, though, I will say kick yourself in the butt and start watching it. Yeah. If you ain't got Hulu, let a girl know. I'll see if I can pass you my password, girl.
We got some codes. We got some codes.
Okay, we got some codes. But I want to kick off by asking you, John, how do you feel like this show sees you?
Ooh, so I'm glad. It was funny because when we were putting together our show flow, we were talking about like, what do we want to do? And I was hoping that you would mention that you were watching the show, because I always hate recommending a topic and you'd be like, I'm not watching that. And I'm like, fuck. So I really do appreciate that you're watching it, because I feel like we can have this convo without spoiling anything for folks, but also being able to give you all kind of a jump to say like, this is why it's so important that you watch it. And I love that this is the first question, because when you get to the heart of this show, and you get into the heart of like why it's so important for us to see shows like How to Die Alone, I think there's a few things that stick out that I really wanted to kind of like highlight in this conversation. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was really thinking about this idea that we're seeing a character who is truly struggling. And I think it's important for us to note that, because I think it would have been really easy, like considering that Natasha's having, in my opinion, her golden moment, right? Natasha, people have known Natasha. People have always known Natasha to be kind of the I wouldn't even say the sidekick, not even really the co-star either. Really just kind of this character that kind of just pops in, says something funny, and then scurries away. I think this character is really showing kind of the entire it's showing Natasha has range. Like that for me is what I get. And I know some folks have commented and said that some of the acting and even some of the dialogue is real cringe and it's hard, but like kind of hard to kind of like connect with. But what I will say is that the show is great. Like the show in itself, right? Not every episode is going to be a strong episode, and we get it. Sometimes episodes have lulls, but it definitely shows us that Natasha as a creator is smart, and that she herself is really positing this idea of like, yo, like there are people out here who are really having it hard. And so I really appreciate that. But I also will say too, that there's a very honest take on what we see as, because obviously Melissa is, the character that she's playing. There's an honest take on, and it's almost funny too that you mentioned that you're getting ready to turn 30, because in the opening of the show, we're meeting Melissa when she is getting ready to have her birthday and she's getting older, right? And so there's all these revelations that she's having with herself of like, yo, I'm getting ready to get older and I don't have my shit together.
Mhm.
And it is so hard to be where I am. I've never flown anywhere. I work at this airport and I hate my job. Like, Melissa is us in so many different ways. And I'll even say
Mm,
this, like, I don't want to give too much. I know we're going to get into it a little bit later in our show flow, but what I will say is there, like, it's funny because, like, you met me when I was where Melissa was. Like, you met me at the time of my life
mm,
where I fucking hated everything. I was unhappy in my relationship. I was unhappy in my job. I was unhappy in my body. I was unhappy in my life. Like, everything that was wrong with, like, life, you met me at that point. And so it's funny because it's like now I'm watching the show back and I'm going, as much as I don't know what it's like to be a Black woman, I know Melissa because I was
mm,
Melissa. I've been where
mm.
Melissa has been. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But what about you, love?
So first I kind of want to address the point about if folks are critiquing the acting or the dialogue. Like, when people say it feels cringe, like I kind of lean into cringe because I see it like, yeah, it's cringe because it's real. Like, this is real dialogue. Like, people do say these things, right? Like, for like the fight between the besties, right, in the first few episodes, that is real. Like, that is legit how things can escalate sometimes. You say one thing and then someone brings up other things. Like, the shit is cringy because life is cringy. And so I want to honor, like, this show really is depicting some really real stuff. And I think this show actually depicts the struggle of being okay and showing how people can become more okay, especially when they have community around them, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's the big theme of the show is what community does for you, especially when you let them do stuff for you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really amazing. And I think for me, right, I'm not comparing the show to Insecure, where Rothwell was also a character there who was a great character.
Right.
But hearing you say reminds you of yourself, right, makes me think of like Insecure was that show for
Yeah.
me when I met
Mm-hmm.
you, because it was obviously the Issa's character and her friends Molly, Tiffany, and Kelly, like they were farther along in in their lives than I was. But Issa's questioning of herself, was who I was that person in a moment in time too,
Fair.
right?
Yeah. Fair. Fair.
And I think like similarly, right? Like, I believe that show Issa was in her 20s, and in this show, Mel's in her 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
so Mel, right? Like Mel's in an age where you quote unquote should have your life together,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I think it's also super real because there are many people in their 30s who do feel this way. And so, like, I think when people say that something's cringe, I think it's because they actually see themselves more than they care to admit in this show.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why it's cringy, 'cause, like, oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
that could be me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm someone who had the privilege, right? I have the privilege of flying since I was like a baby. Like,
Right.
I've always been comfortable around play, but there are people legit have not
Yeah.
flown, and fear holds them to that.
Yeah.
Like, right, and they live in fear, or they are in their 30s and they've been too fearful. Like, you read so many articles, have so many friends in your lives, you see
Yeah.
watch so many TV shows or movies where people take big risks in their 30s and 40s because they realize I wasn't living. So the show teaches you a lot about fear, and it's
Yeah.
so relatable. And so I'm curious to ask you, what is the show teaching you about fear for
Yeah.
yourself and facing it?
Yeah. So I was gonna. You said something and it struck a chord with me because I also want to note, like, in the show, Melissa doesn't get to fly because she chooses to. Like, she's flying for a reason, and it's not
Mhm,
on her terms, right? So that's something I want to
mhm,
acknowledge too. But also, a lot of what we find in the show for Melissa is, in this character, she's also not flying because she can't afford it. And that's something else that I think we need to also acknowledge, that there are so many people out there like Melissa who's like, I'm barely surviving. My bills are, I'm drowning in bills. I'm drowning in debt, right? And then she has this terrible thing that
mhm,
happens to her that puts her even further more in debt. And so it also
mhm,
speaks to this game of that I've told people too, of like how expensive it is to be poor. Like, when you
mhm,
when you're broke and then something terrible happens to you, it can set you back tremendously, and you
mhm,
have no idea how that's
mhm,
going to impact your life. And so we're watching that play out. But what I was going to say to your question about fear, one, I see Melissa doing some stuff that she probably shouldn't be doing, and I'm a little too scared to be doing any of that. Melissa is what's the word that they use for the queer? She is mopping. Is that the right word? Mopping. Mama is out here. She is scamming the
Screaming.
system the way that she knows
Listen,
how.
the true scam goddess,
She is the true
okay?
scam goddess, honey. And so so there's a part of me that I'm looking, I'm going, ooh, girl, that ain't gonna never be me because I'm afraid to go to jail. I'm too pretty. But what I will say is, I will say that there's this part of me when I see this question about fear. I get a lot of people who look at me now and they're like, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that and you're doing all of these great things. And I think people automatically assume that because I'm a lot further. Like I said, I met you almost 10 years ago, and in the 10 years, 7 of those 10 years that we've been friends, we've been able to really see each other bloom and each other grow. But what I will say is that there is still this element of fear that really is really keeping so many of us from being what I believe is our best selves. And what I will say is that we hold ourselves back, not necessarily because we hold ourselves back, but because, I made a note here. I said things in life hold us back because oppression, and because that we've all lived so many experiences around oppression. It's sometimes hard for us to believe that we deserve good things. And so I see this in Melissa's character, right? You have two total
Mm,
distinctions. You have her best friend who is very rich, who basically has always had things handed to him. And then you have Melissa, who has had to work pretty much for everything that she's had. And it's very funny because it's like she's telling the life of my college experience. I had a colleague
mm,
who I used to, not even a colleague, a friend when I was in college. And I think I've talked about this old friend before. I wouldn't say we're friends anymore. They follow me on social media and they like my stuff here and there. And they, shout me out and congratulate me. But I remember when we were in college, this friend that I had, they were in a very well off space. Like their parents sent them to school, their parents got them a car, their parents, whenever they asked their parents for money, they never had to worry about anything. And there were times where they would ask me to do stuff with them and I would have to tell them like, yo girl, I gotta work, or yo, I don't have the money for that. And they would be like, why? And it would be like, because I'm the only person funding this life of mine. Like, I don't have
mm,
family like you to be able to go back to and say, Mom, this really fucked up thing happened to me while I was in school today. Can you help me? And so like I'm noticing that as I'm watching the show, like there's this interesting dichotomy, and also too the anti-blackness of it all and the anti-fatness of it all and stuff. Like Rory is a very thin Asian man, and you have this black woman who is of size, navigating all of the different ways that the world doesn't believe in her. And so Rory is having a very hard time understanding the take that Melissa has. And so there's this interesting breakdown that's playing out as you watch the relationship between Rory and Melissa. But again, not to give you all too much, what I think for myself when you ask a question about fear is,
mhm,
I think for me the biggest thing is, so I'm dealing with that right now because I'll just say this transparently because this is what we do here.
mm,
I have basically felt like for the last 8 to 9 months, I have been begging people to do good by me. And what I mean by that is whether that means hire me for a good job, hire me to, or even to like bring me on to do different things, to amplify my book, to amplify this podcast, to amplify the good work I'm doing at my organization, all of these things. And I've just gotten so tired of waiting for people
mm,
to do right by me, right? And so there's this fear in me that says like what like and I'm still reckoning with it and I'm still trying to figure it out.
mm,
But like what does it mean for me to say like what does it mean to get out of my own fucking way and say I'm going to do it this way and I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to step out and do it the way that I need to. And that's really what this show has really kind of given me, right? When you talk about fear, it's this idea of like fear keeps us in jobs that we don't want to be at because again, bills and security.
mhm,
Fear keeps us in relationships that we don't want to be in because we fear that we'll never be loved again. Fear keeps us in connections with family because we feel like we'll be by ourselves, or even friendships because we feel like we'll never find true friends again. So like there's all these elements of fear that you're asking. And I'm going, for myself personally, I'm in a place right now in my career where I'm going, what does it
mhm,
fully mean for me to say, stop waiting for these people to give you the green light or to give you the keys to the door or to give you the table, and to say, I'm truly going to pour all of my energy into building my own. And I don't know what that is, but what I will tell you is that I'm feeling it more and more, and this show only amplified it. What about you? I know I said a lot.
Ooh, I legit need to take a breath. Like,
Yeah.
it's so, I mean, it's so real. And thank you, John, so much for sharing that and being vulnerable in this moment. Like, that's so real because, like, as you're saying that, it's like fear and faith go hand in hand
They
for me.
do. They do.
And I've been thinking a lot about that for a lot of reasons lately. But like, fear and faith go hand in hand, and right, like the antithesis to fear is faith, in like in some ways, right? Or like, or even like to even like to have faith in spite of fear, like you you know, or to like to have fear in spite of faith. And they really do, like they are like two sides of the same coin to me, because like fear is it's the thing that rules us the most in
Yeah.
ourselves. It informs everything that we do. Like, I was having a conversation last night with friend of the pod, Kelsey, in our in
Mhm.
you know the one of our guests in our live show coming up. And her and I were talking about fear, and not fear in this like, existential dread, just fear of like being perceived wrong, fear of someone
Mhm.
being upset with us, fear of trying and failing,
Huge.
and
Huge.
right, like the fear to try and failing prevents me from so many things,
Mhm.
even though so many times I've proven to myself that I won't fail.
Right. Hello?
Like,
Right.
even like the
Yeah.
actual data has shown me that I won't fail,
Right.
but yet I still have the fear about it, right? Because change is scary, and if I succeed, then something will change, and that scares me, right? And so then I realized, is it that I actually fear that I'll do it, or is it that I fear that I won't make it, or is it that I fear what will happen when I do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And not if I do, but like when I do, because I have the faith that I can. So faith is just fear is just a hard thing for me. Like, and the show, right? And again, it's my point about community, right? Because the show, quickly she gains more friends in the show
Mhm.
too,
Mhm.
and they support her, right? And it's like, and she's like, oh, this is what it looks like to have support in my community of people. Her people at her job support her, right? Like the last episode, um, where I'm trying to think of like the last episode, the one that came out last week, was so great because it was a demonstration of what happens when you let your community help you.
Yeah.
And even though she was like still going through her fear in process, her community was like, hold my hand, girl, I got you.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
got this, we got each other. And that to me was just so powerful, and so amazing. And I also love that you bring up the fact that like there's also people that actually reflect her more, because in the day, her and Rory are two entirely different people, right?
Mhm.
And you saw the way, I mean, even I won't give it too much away, but like, even the way their friendship began, right,
Mhm.
was a really artificial way.
Yeah.
That I actually didn't. I was like, oh, it's like, I was like, how'd they meet? And like that, like they met off of them having a negative experience in their own ways, and then he convinces her to do something that she wanted to do, and then he's like, "Don't worry, like I'll take care of you," right? But like, like he pushed her to make the decision that she
Right.
made,
Right.
um, and that and then throws back in her face,
Right. Right.
right, but
Mhm.
like they're
But
also,
not to cut you off, but he does that a lot.
yes,
If you notice that in the
yes.
show, and that's the issue that I have. And I mean, obviously, right? It means it's good writing if you can if you can respond to a character
Yes,
in that
because we all
way.
know that person. We all know that
We all
person
know that person.
who does that, who does the exact
He
thing.
constantly offers himself to help her, and then when he does, he throws it back at her. And that,
Look at how I helped you
yep,
and did this
and
thing,
I
and
know
it's like,
people like that. Yes, yes.
girl, you weren't even there when,
When she needed you the
when I
most.
needed you,
Right.
you weren't even there,
Right.
and you were out here doing truly Lord knows
With
what
who?
with Lord
Yeah.
knows who.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
like,
Yes.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
so
yeah.
real.
So yeah. So I really feel you so much on pieces of fear. I know in the show you had a question about liking yourself and like feeling about yourself. Like, say more about what you were thinking
Yeah,
about that part.
so my biggest thought was, I think if anything, in watching the show and really thinking about shows like How to Die Alone, and you brought up another show that I have not had a chance to catch up on, and that's why we didn't
Mm-hmm.
mention it or we didn't melt the conversation. Queenie was another show that you brought up, and from what I understand, it's supposed to be like a UK version of like it gives like Insecure vibes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I've
yeah, yeah,
heard.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
all that to be said, and yes, I will be tuning in. I do have a fight in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, that'll be one of the shows that I put on my docket to watch as I fly.
Mm,
But what I will say is, thinking about this show specifically, I think a lot about this idea of like how, and again, I don't know, we don't know enough about Melissa or her backstory. Like we get a glimpse of her family, we get a glimpse of what her relationship is with her brother, we
and her
and
mom.
her mom. So I'm saying like her family, right? We get a
Yeah,
glimpse
yeah,
of that,
yeah.
but we don't get a true, like, we don't truly know where some of Melissa's traumas come from. And I'm sure that as the show progresses, or even if hopefully, if I'm not gonna even say if, when it gets to
When
season
it gets a
two,
new season,
right? We'll
yeah.
we'll learn more about Melissa and why Melissa operates the way that she does. But what I will say is that I've been thinking a lot about as I watch this show, how many of us are okay with accepting the scraps out of life because we feel like that's all life has ever given us. And I mean, I know we've talked about this
Mhm.
before. We've talked about on so many different instances about what it means to get what we deserve as Black fat folks, what it means to get what we deserve as Black fat femme folks, right? Like we've talked about those in so many different instances. And I know for me, it's like I'm watching this Melissa character and I'm watching the show and I'm going, I just I'm there's so many of us who are waiting for life to happen. And I think that is the thing that I kind of wanted to bring up when I asked this question of like, how am I processing it and the idea of like liking and loving myself. It's like,
Mm,
when do we get to a place as people and saying, uh, like, how do I get out of this idea of waiting for life to hand me something versus me just going and snatching it out of its hand? And I think that's genuinely
mm,
what I'm also going through right now. And so, like, this conversation, as much as when we were going back and forth about it, it didn't feel personal. This conversation and
mm,
this show for me right now, I'm reflecting on it and I'm going, fuck, this is really personal for me right now. And
mm,
I don't know
mhm.
why I'm in this group chat. Like, I don't really want to be in this group chat, but I'm
Can you remove me,
here.
please, from here?
Right. It's not giving Demir or mindful, right? Like, I don't want to be in this group chat, but it really is. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about this show and I'm reflecting on it with you. And I'm thinking, like, and
Mm,
even in our personal friendship conversations, right? Like, you've inspired me so much. And there's so much more I want to do. And, I'm sitting here and I'm going, why? And it's so weird because as we're recording, I see you, Carla. It's 4:44, and I I'm looking at the time and the synchronicity of numbers and 4:44 and the
mm,
meaning of
mhm,
family and someone's what. So yeah, so I get it. Like
mm,
it's 4:44 at
mhm,
the time of recording, and I'm talking about this, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm going, I hear you, Carla. But and y'all know who Carla is. Carla is my best friend who passed away 2 years ago. And so all of that to be said, I think for me, I'm watching this show and I'm thinking about it and I'm processing it and I'm going like I'm at a place now where I'm really tired of waiting for people to validate how fucking hard I work and validate how much I give the world. And really thinking about my own abilities and the amazingness that we all carry, and thinking like, how can I use that to get to the place I so desperately want to be? And I'm thinking about it, right? Like when I talk about scams, y'all will know what I'm talking about because that's basically what Melissa's doing. She's like, I'm going to use whatever I have to get to where I want to go. And it's like,
mhm.
that's really what the message is for me. Like, as I'm sitting with these 6 episodes, I'm going, that's the true message. I got to use what I have currently to get to where I want to go.
Yeah. Right now
Mhm.
I'm thinking about like the true dichotomy between Natasha's characters, like between Had I Alone and Insecure,
Mm,
because her character in Insecure, Kelly, is like the polar opposite
Melissa. Yeah.
of Melissa, right? Like in in How to Die Alone, like you have a fat black woman who like has been struggling to believe in herself, struggling to believe that she can reach more, that she can do more, that she can be more, and that she deserves more. Struggling with feeling like her place in the world. Kelly, her character was like the like is she like took up every part of space that you could ask for. Had nothing but belief in herself, nothing but depth, the depth of who she
Yeah.
was. You know, like hilariously, everyone thought she had died. Her at her
Yes.
college reunion, everyone had died, and she was like, "What the fuck?" She was like, "Yo, I'm right here,"
Yeah.
right? Which is sad because they played in her face in some ways. And don't get me wrong, like I love Insecure so much. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm rewatching it for a third time. Like I love the show, but they play Kelly in her face and in our faces as if it's so wild for this fat black woman to be so confident in
Right. And to
herself
be happy.
and to be having to love herself
Hmm.
so much, right? And it's this moment, like as you're saying, like as you're asking the question of waiting for someone or life to hand you stuff, and how to stop asking for validation. I'm like, actually, like Kelly's character is a great fucking framework. Like we we all laugh hee hee ha ha about how like Delulu she was,
Right.
but today everyone's saying be Delulu, right?
Right.
Like
It's the
everyone's cracked the
Salulu.
code.
Yeah.
Everyone's cracked the code now in 2024 that Delulu is a Delulu, but she was doing that shit since 2016.
Right. 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 Right.
You know, and you know, and like you know, I really think her character in that show really like gives us all a framework of like like the world actually isn't going to give us the things that we ask for
Nope.
because it maintains its power by making us ask for it.
Hmm.
And so the only way which we can empower ourselves and disempower the confines of society around us is to say, I'm just gonna take up space. Like like you won't give it to me, that's fine. I will get it another way myself,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I will go through this way to do instead. You don't have to validate how amazing I am. I know how amazing I am, and my community knows how amazing I am too, right? And that's where that's where the piece about Mel's character come in. Like her community knows how amazing she is, how
Right.
amazing she can be,
Right.
right? So when you have a fusion of the you know the traits of all these characters as someone who's like, I'm a boss ass bitch, I'm I'm gonna do what I want, I deserve what I want, and also fuse that with like people who love me, who are making
Hmm.
my life better, who will help me get there and be there for me when I get what I want and be there for me in the times that I don't.
Hmm.
And like you know like those are the folks that I need to affirm me or validate me.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody else's validation. Like I don't need some person I don't know off the street about validation. Like I know that I'm that bitch and my friends know I'm that bitch, so I will just be that bitch and get the shit I want, get the shit I
And you
want get.
have to move that way. I think I'm thinking more and more, not, it's not even, we joke about being Delulu and being that Salulu, being the Salulu or being the solution. But, I will say, as a light flex, right? Like my friendship with Lacey Mosley has grown in since they've been on the show. We exchanged information, and I will truly say, like, Lacey speaks into me things that I genuinely never thought. She sees things and she picks up on things, and she tells me constantly, like, girl, you have, like, I'm challenging you. Like, even our conversation today, we were talking about some stuff. Long story short, there's some things that are moving around me, and I wanted to get Lacey's take on it. And so I messaged her, and we were going back and forth, and she basically was explaining to me, she was like, she always ends our text threads with "don't give up." And I think that for me is kind of the thing. Like, I never realized how much I needed Lacey Mosley as a friend up until she was on this
Mm.
show, right? Like, I never knew who she was. I heard her name, but I never knew, and then, we've connected, we've hung out, we've had dinner, we've gone on a whole mission in San Francisco, we talked about on the show together. And just every time we talk, that's her number one thing that she's constantly telling me. She's like, don't give up. She's like, I see it for you. The world is going to one day see it for you. Don't give up. And I think that it's important for us. Like, I think if that's the one thing that I can take from this conversation, or I can take from, the idea of like what this show is and what the importance of it is like, you've got to find people who believe in you and pour into you more than you pour into you.
You know,
Mhm.
and John, I just want to say you are a truly living testament to not like taking stuff and like not having to beg for it. Like you like literally like you even this is in their book, y'all. So if you want to read more about this, read this in their book.
You've read it. So go
But
ahead.
like,
Yeah.
but okay,
Yeah.
okay, how you doing?
I know
How
that's
you doing?
right.
I read the advanced copy, bitch.
Yes, I
Okay,
know that's
I
right. My
I
best
can
friend got to
recite
read
and
it
refer
before
your
anybody
lines,
else.
bitches.
Yes, go
Okay,
off.
but like you demonstrate right. Like you were told you won't advance your education. You got your doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
You were told you won't thrive in higher ed. You thrived in higher ed.
Mm-hmm.
You were told you won't get a podcast. You got a podcast. You were told you won't get a book. You got a book. You were told you wouldn't be on TV. You were on TV. Bitch, you are a
Right.
testament
Right.
to all like to like I hope you allow me to remind you that you are such a testament
Thank you.
to all the things in which you have said
Mm-hmm.
or asked, how do I get here? How do I do this? You have done all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And you and I know it was hard as fuck and you fought your way to do those things
And
and you
still
have
fighting,
done those
bitch. Because let's
and
talk
still
about it
fine.
offline. When we get
But like
together next week, I'm
facts.
gonna have to fill you in on some shit,
Oh,
girl. But still
girl.
fighting,
Oof.
But go off. I
You
hear you.
you me and Canada, you me and Cantors. But like
Yeah.
but for really but for real, like the other day
Yes.
you have
Mm-hmm.
done those things and are doing those things still.
Yeah.
And so like truly you don't need no validation from anybody else because you have done that for yourself and it is amazing to see and I love that Lacey says don't give up because you haven't given up on you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't given up on you and it shows.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's really 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 beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, whew, y'all. Now that John and Natasha have us rethinking our lives and our entire life
My God.
choices, we gotta take a break to pay the man. Unfortunately, unfortunately, he needs to validate our parking and our light bills. So we will be right back. More in just a sec.
All right, y'all. So we are Black, Fat, and Femme. And like the title of my new book, where you all can go pre order
Yes.
today, Black, Fat, Femme, revealing the power of visibly queer voices in media and how to love yourself.
Okay.
We are going to take a page out of the traditional that we always do around here. What's on your plate? This is usually when we talk about stuff that either is going on with us or stuff that's going on in the world. And so this week, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to kind of like I would say we wanted to kind of level set because I think like we kind of joked about it at the beginning of the podcast. We said that September came in real hot. She's still hot. Like as of today, there is still shit that is happening. And I'm like, my God, how much more can we take? But with that being said, we definitely wanted to do kind of like a level set and really just kind of talk about like some of the stuff that's impacting Black fat femmes in the community and in the world and in the news. And so I wanted to start off with this as just kind of an offering. And I know we probably should have did it at the top of the episode, but here we are. I just kind of didn't want to because I felt like we came in with really high energy and this is kind of a low energy thing. And so just trying to figure out the energies. But all that to be said, I definitely wanted to say and send my love and my best to the family of Marcelius Williams, who is also known as Khalifa in Missouri. And then I also wanted to say and send my condolences to the family of Emmanuel Littlejohn in Oklahoma. One of the things that I think is imperative for us right now, right? So like it's been hard because and even my partner feels, and my partner has been like, when in the fuck did you become so like, into politics? And so, and I'm telling him, like, I have to explain to him, like, when you work for a nonprofit and everything that you do at this nonprofit is impacted by some type of political law or something that's happening and I mean, I'm sure you feel this too, right? Because you're fighting for Black Jewish rights. You have to pay attention to everything. Like there's no way for you to get away from what's happening in the news. You can't shut it off because something in the news is going to impact you, even if it's in another state. And so I say all of that to say that I can sit here in California and be like, none of these things bother me, but I'm recognizing that there is a trend. There's a trend that's happening here. Excuse me. And with that being said, I want us to keep our eyes peeled because these executions, well, one, there's something to keep in mind that while we saw these two things happen and we saw politicians basically turn their nose up to us and say, fuck y'all, we don't really care what you think. We don't care. We're going to do what we want to do. There are still three other Black people who are sitting and waited waiting to be executed. So there are articles you can go find. We didn't have the time to really get into it the way we wanted to, but I just wanted to say, like, it is imperative, and I'm going to talk more about this when we get into our next segment. It is so important right now for y'all to be the energy, and we're going to talk about chaperone in a second. The energy y'all are given to this person, y'all need to be given to these politicians. Like, it is so imperative that we give this energy to these politicians, because even after November 7th, this shit is still happening. There are still people who are on death row. There are still going to be Black people who are being policed. There are still going to be Black and brown and queer and fat and trans. There was just a Native American woman who was found in a city, like 2 or 3 cities over from me, who was found murdered, right? Like, we've got to talk about this stuff. So, like, it's really imperative that we're paying attention to it. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm going to say more on it when we get into our yes ma'am and our no ma'am Pam. But yeah, my heart really wanted. I know it's heavy, but I just definitely, and I was saying to you when we were doing the show, I was like, I don't want to do anything heavy, and here we are. But it's a reality for us, and it would be an injustice for us if we didn't speak their name on this show. It's a part of our reality. It's a part of our life, and it's something that we constantly have to be thinking about. So, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to respond to that or if you have anything you want to add.
No, just so real. I mean, I'll say at the conference yesterday, one of the like the ending session was from a poet and rapper, and he was like, he was like, I'd be remiss if I didn't like raise the name of Khalif Marcellus Williams, and he recited one of Marcellus's poems, because Marcellus is also a poet as well too, and it was, and like he asked us to all take a moment, and it was powerful, because I mean like powerful in the sense of this, Marcellus's name got to give power to the moment, and it gave power to what the artist was rapping about and doing spoken word about too.
Yeah.
But it's hard, because I think we're at a time where things like this is what makes us lose faith in our
systems,
government, in our systems, because people have been outside their district office or court every day, asking and begging for Supreme Court to review this.
Yeah.
To prevent him from being killed. That even the prosecutor said that he was actually tried unfairly. Right, the prosecutor on that, I think prosecutor on that case, or the prosecutor who were saying was like that this case was not tried fairly, and it's hard, because we're at a time where we're telling people we want you to vote for change in our systems, and we're seeing that the system is failing so many people, and it's especially failing about Black and brown people every day. And it's also hard because, right, not every state has legalized, or still, not every state has delegalized the death penalty. So it's hard when other states have, and it's a hard thing. Like, when people play God in this way, like, that just makes me so sad. And it's like knowing this man, right, this man's being killed for something that he actually has been demonstrated to be innocent for.
Right.
Meanwhile, folks who have done like horrible mass shootings over the past decade, have less recourse done to them.
Right.
I'm not saying I don't believe in death penalty. I'm really clear. Like, I don't believe in death penalty.
Neither do I.
Like, and I'm just saying it's interesting and sad that there are folks who have done truly horrible things and get far less.
Like, even thinking about, not to cut you off, but even to think about that I don't know what happened. So, and again, y'all feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all always do. But there was the story about the man and the woman who got off, basically with the slap on the hand for holding those handguns. And then I think there was something recently in that same city or in that same state that happened with someone doing something similar, like having their gun out, or I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I think about those kind of stories, right? How, like, even let's take it back, right? You get the person who, I don't know the name of the gentleman or the person who shot up that church, right? But the idea that they took him to get Burger King, I think it was, when they arrested him, like, you could do this terrible devilish thing, and yet we're going to take you, we're going to basically, reward you with a meal from Burger King. And I mean, who really enjoys Burger King anyway? But I'm just saying, like, it's that kind of stuff we have to think about of like, in all of this, right? These terrible things happen, and then, you know, Black people still, and I think that's the thing that in this conversation I'm hoping that we can uplift and hear, you know. And that's why I've been putting in my emails all this week. I have been, you know, when I text people, when I ask people for stuff, you know, I'm going, please tell me if it's too much. If you got a lot going on right now, we can push it. But, you know, I think it is imperative for us to note, like, we're not just dealing with Black issues right now. It's like you're dealing with the stuff of what you're seeing, all of the stuff that you're taking in about what's happening overseas. We're also dealing with the stuff that's happening here at home. There's personal stuff. There are people that I know and love that are dealing with COVID. I have a really close friend. Their parent is passing, you know, is literally getting ready. They're literally sunsetting their life because they know that cancer is getting ready to take them out. Right. So it's like you're constantly in this place of like, you're having to deal with like all these big ticket things that you're seeing in the media, and then you're still having to like function like nothing happened. And I think that's the thing that makes it very, very hard. And so, you know, I from, you know, my word from my lips to y'all, you know, to listeners, like, please make sure y'all are taking care of yourselves in the best way that you know how. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skirt past, we're going to get to Miss, is it Chappell Roan? We're going to get to her. Is it her, or do they use they them pronouns? I just want to be clear.
I believe her.
Okay.
I believe her.
Okay.
Yes, because she she says she refers to herself as girl in like terms of gender.
Okay.
But let me just see. She have her own pronouns.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I do want to
she her pronouns.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Clear. So we'll get to her. But what I will say is I did want to kind of run this, and then we can kind of, maybe we can, these are all kind of, you know what? These are all positive. So I'll run through them and then we'll get to that conversation. So I did want to say, so Jackie Shane, a Black trans singer, she got her day to be recognized in Tennessee. And so Jackie Shane has been making music for over the last, I think for 30, like it said in the article that they had been making music for over 30 years and had never been recognized. And so I guess they're putting up some type of monument or some type of like placard to let her know she's a Black trans singer, that basically her roots and stuff started in Tennessee. And so they're uplifting her name. So I definitely wanted to give snaps to that. And if folks follow Jackie Shane, is Jackie Shane still with us? Do we know?
Yes. In the article you sent, it said that she was still here.
Oh, actually, no, she's not. She died. She passed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh wow. That's okay.
So so either way, we still uplift that's an ancestor of ours. We still uplift Jackie Shane's name. And just, you know, we're very grateful and thankful for the legacy that they've left behind for other trans Black women who make music. So definitely wanted to uplift that Tennessee is finally, especially Tennessee, out of all the places that she could be uplifted, Tennessee, my God. That's really cool to hear. So also wanted to uplift that Damarian Bible will spend more than 30 years in prison for the murder of Savannah Ryan. I hadn't been following that case very closely, but that case, I think that case actually, like that situation happened very closely to the there was a slaying of a woman in Texas. And so I was trying to get my information clear about what happened and who happened and things, but I do know that Savannah was connected to some folks that I know. And so I'm very, very happy to hear, like, as much as I would still rather Savannah be here with us and be able to uplift and be able to speak positively of all the amazing things that they have done and will do. I'm very, very happy that justice is in that way. And again, I know people, oh, we don't want to celebrate Black men going to jail, but I'm like, you do terrible things, they have consequences. So that's kind of where my heart is. Like, you do something terrible to us specifically, you have to hold the consequences. And so, you know, I hope Damarian learned something from this. I hope that there is space. You know, I the thing I always pray for when people go to jail, and I've even said this about, I've been on 3 other podcasts and we've been talking a lot about Diddy and all of the different things. I think the thing for me, and if you have thoughts, jump in, please. But I was going to say, I hope that there is space for someone to, like, for these folks to really, truly learn what they did and why they did it, and the harm that it caused, like, not just to Savannah and her family, but to like the entire LGBTQ community. Like, I'm hoping that there's space for someone to sit back and say, and I know a lot of the stuff, so I want to make sure I say this too, that a lot of the stuff that they're talking about around Diddy is alleged. I don't want us to get sued, but I will say, like, there's a lot of alleged stuff that's happening, and the same thing, like, I'm hoping while he's sitting in jail, I'm hoping that he is reflecting on some of the stuff that he has done and how it impacted people, and hopefully how that can change his actions and the ways that he treats people. And I say people very, because they're naming both men and women in his suit, right? And so I say people as a very general standard. But yeah, did you have anything?
Just that I really wish for a world and hope to work for a world in which we can address people's root causes of hate and steer them away from that, where they don't have to feel like they need to commit murder to prove something or to do something. Like, that's just what I wish for. Like, I just, like, you know, I'm striving to not hate someone, like, for their ideology, but like hate the ideology and how it was taught to them, but like have compassion for the person, because at the day of the day, like, we're all human, and so I'm like, I wish for a world where, like, where them as that person as a human didn't feel like they had the right to take another human's life away,
right?
And and that they as a human was also treated better, so they wouldn't have had to do such a thing. So I think that's kind of all I think.
That's so valid. That is so valid. And I love that you mentioned that. So I know we still wanted to get to our last thing. I was going to just say this. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I did want to acknowledge that we're coming up on 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So we're getting ready to, we're in the eighth year since everything happened in Orlando at Pulse, and the police determined this week that code violations and other issues raised after the shooting. But basically, there were folks who were trying to sue the owner of that club and saying that there were all of these different
bullshit.
Right.
Just bullshit. Just BS. And also, like, 8 years. It's taking 8 years to decide. Like the one thing I think sometimes about, like, the law and justice system is how long it takes things after the fact to, like, try and figure something out. I'm like, 8 years.
Yeah.
People right. Like, I mean, and it sucks that they have, like the rule ended up being, like, in the owner's favor. But, like, if it wasn't, right, 8 years, like 8 years of people fighting for this,
and 8 years of stress. Because I'm, like, thinking to yourself, like, think about how that impact, like, not only does he probably have to deal with, like, the emotional toll of the guilt of what happened at that club, but now you have this lawsuit that's looming over your head that took 8 years to settle. Like, my God.
Well, like, and the people who were affected, like, by us too, right? Like 8 years of them having to exist, like, with this lawsuit in their lives too, and, like, do they blame the owner for co-violations that contribute to their friends and loved ones' death? Like, just so many things. Like, it was just
So I mean, I think we definitely want to make sure that we're uplifting, and I think that's the thing I want to take out of that story, right? Like, I'm glad that the owner can find some peace, because, again, he was living his life, he was doing his job, from what I understand and from what I've read, and this terrible thing happens where he works. And so, I don't, and again, please don't come for me if there are other things in this story that I missed. I'm not saying that I'm siding with them, because there are people, I'm sure, who probably knew people who were harmed in this. I'm just saying, like, I'm happy that it's not. I'm happy. So the thing is, I'm hoping that folks can get rest. That's what I think. What I'm trying to say, that in all of this, right? Like, after 8 years, it's got to be very, very hard to carry around all of this. And I'm hoping that families, I'm hoping that the owner, whoever that was impacted deeply by this, can finally start to heal and start to get the rest that they deserve. So let's get to Chaperone. So Chaperone, I'm not going to make it sound like I know everything about what's happening around this baby. I will say this, and because my husband seems to like her and like her music. She is not doing, somebody needs to pull her to the side from a PR standpoint and say, girl, shut up. Girl, like there's
Oof.
only so much. And I want to make this clear that this is not about the politics of it all. What I'm saying when I make this comment is you have to understand that every action you have has a reaction, and it's only triple, 4 times, 5 times over when you're a celebrity. And so what I'm saying is this: if you are going to make a statement, a political statement, and you know, and you're holding on to this statement, right? You've got to know that these people are going to have a response.
Mm.
And you can't get mad when people come after you after whatever response that you made. You've got to stand 10 toes down and say, I said what I said, niggas, and this is what I mean, and this is what I stand on, right? Like when like I think about who is it that's been very vocal about Palestine. There's been quite a few celebrities. Kalani, right? Like there have been quite a few celebrities who have said, I said what I said, and y'all niggas ain't gonna make me change my standpoint on that. Okay, I respect you, right? But if you're gonna make a statement that's very politically driven, and then you're gonna run it back and say, "Oh my God, I'm so stressed," it's like, girl, somebody in your camp should have said, "Yo, you have a platform. You got to be careful." So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Chappell Roan. Like, I don't wish bad on her because I don't know her like that. But I'm also in the mind of like, baby, you like. That's why Beyonce don't say nothing. Beyonce said, I'm going to say what I say in my actions. I'll say I support somebody. I'll give Kamala my song to use. But y'all not going to get me up on no interview talking about what's going on in politics. I'm not doing that. And I respect it.
You know, it does bring up an interesting point about people and their like socially our desire for people, celebrities, to like make statements. Like it does bring up a good point because I understand why folks get mad at celebrities for saying nothing.
Right.
And then someone says something and we eat them up.
Yep.
Like eat them up and let them have it for like saying something that may not align with us or something. And so I find that interesting. And so like it's like I really hold Chappell's like she's made a lot of points of like I actually don't owe you anything just because I'm
and
famous.
That is a good
and
point.
And like that's a stance,
Great
girl,
point.
10 toes deep on business, period. Absolutely house down boots. You do not.
Right.
And also, you cannot control how people will react to something. And so it's like if that's your statement, girl, then just stand on that statement because it looks different when you try to then shift the statement you made before, right? And like and now it's getting worse, right? Like now it's getting worse. And so it's like, girl,
your
like
kitchen's on fire,
this
girl.
is what happened. The kitchen's on fire, right? Like girl, like
bitch, you in the kitchen with oil and water.
You was and then you said, let me just turn the heat up and put the oil and throw some alcohol on it.
Yes,
So
bitch, you can't do that.
On it.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And so it's like, you know, like I really do feel for her. And I think people do need to sit the fuck down. Like people do need to take a chill pill and like leave that girl alone.
Leave her alone.
Let her live her life, you know, like, and you know, so I think it's about Fan.
It is a both and. Yep.
Yeah. She should maybe think more about the implications of what she says, knowing that's going to be public. Like I agree with her. She doesn't owe us anything, and she knows that like whatever she says will be taken hell out of context, and people need to like, girl, stop begging for the celebrities to say something, and and then trying to harass them like for saying something.
Yeah,
let them, like they're actually just people living their lives like you are, and they'll leave them in more public ways. Sure. But they're just people like living like trying to strive and survive in this world that is in many cases against them. So like they like if you love them for their work, love them for their work. Don't force them into things that they don't want to do. like just for you. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but you actually can't bully people into doing the things that you want them to do.
Sometimes you can, and sometimes bullying
Well,
is necessary. But what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, is a really good point, Joho. And this is what I think you're saying, which I love. We can't get people. Everyone has freedom to like feel and move. If I had my way, I would bully everyone who doesn't want to give us liberty into giving us liberty. If I knew that would work. But my reality is like, I know people have their own way of thinking and their own ways of moving and their own ways that they believe things. So I can't continue to shit on. So I mean, that would be like me. I don't know if this is going to land, but I'm just going to say it would be like if I spent my whole entire energy trying to get Kid Rock to move over from being MAGA, right? Like if I said I'm going to make my whole life's choice making Kid Rock, turn away from MAGA, that like TBH, like where what's the point? Like what is the point? Like Kid Rock has made money. Kid Rock is okay in his life. Like I don't care. I don't care. And I even tweeted that earlier. Like, I wish that we would put that energy that we're putting towards Chappell Roan and a lot of these other celebrities. We're saying, oh, Beyonce didn't say this. And, Nick Carter didn't say this. It's like, who the fuck cares what Nick Carter had to say? Like, we're spending all of our energy saying these celebrities haven't said anything. And I'm going, but they're not politicians. They're not, they've never said that they're going to be politicians. So why the fuck do we care? Why do we care what Chappell Roan has to say? She has her thoughts, and that's cool. If she doesn't vote, that's fine with me. But I don't want to hear her. And this is where my mind is. I don't want to hear her crying after November 7th, right? Like whatever decision comes after November 7th, she has to live with that. I'm making my decisions for me, and my decisions over here is saying I'm voting in my best interest on November 7th, right? So like I think that's where my heart is with that. But anyway, all that to be said, we've gone in this segment for way too fucking long. But I'm gonna come back to this. Everything is gonna come back to the politic in a second. So with that being said, all things considered, we've got one more break that we have to take, and we're gonna get into y'all's favorite segment, Yes Ma'am and No Ma'am Pam. Chris, go ahead and run that track, and we'll be right back. All right, y'all. So this week, I wanted to come here. You know what? So I'm gonna do the flip because I'm still in my energy from the last segment, and I want to keep that energy. And then I'm gonna go with. So I'm gonna start with my No Ma'am Pam, and then I'm gonna start with my Yes Ma'am, and then I'll throw it to you. So the first thing I wanted to say is that I'm seeing this rhetoric everywhere, and it is really pissing me off. And I want folks to be very aware. And again, y'all can argue with your auntie, you can argue with your cousins. I personally don't have the time for that. But what I keep saying is I keep seeing people say that voting, and I'm not even just talking about Kamala, I'm talking about voting in general, that voting doesn't matter, and that we all need to basically pull out of voting in our political system in order for us to make some real change. And I want to say, like you said, it is a both and. I want to make sure that I put I make sure that I put it out there that I agree, that I do agree that to an extent, voting and being involved in our politics is all trash because our political system is trash. Our political system has never been in the business of protecting marginalized people. So I want to acknowledge that, and I want folks to be able to understand that. However, I want to say that I think it is extremely dangerous, especially with what we have coming up for us, to be running the rhetoric and to be telling people right now, with 30 something days away from the election that could potentially change our lives forever, that voting is not going to help people. Now, I would say this. I like to tell people, vote the way you feel like is going to benefit you, right? And if you are strong in the belief that Kamala is just as bad as Biden and is a terrorist and that is for you to revel with, right? That is, and again, I want to make it very clear that I'm not telling people what to do with their political stance. We are all adults. We have things that we have to do. But what I'm saying is, I'm thinking about, and I don't know, I didn't watch the interview enough to be able to know it. But I think what folks like Jill Stein is doing is dangerous. I think a lot of this idea that folks are being so I don't even want to say dumb. I want to say that there are a lot of people who are being intentionally obtuse about what's at stake for marginalized people right now. And I'm just going, y'all, like, if this was a year from the election, then I would say, okay, maybe we have the time to have this nuanced conversation about what's on the table. But right now we've got 30 fucking days. Like, and I'm not telling people that they have to vote for Kamala. What I am saying is and I'm going to keep asking it, what other options do we have? Because if we pull out of collectively working together to try to get this black lady into office, I guess for me, I'm going to say this and then I'll move on. So many of us have the luxury to say, I don't want to vote for Kamala. There are a lot of people who have that luxury. I don't. And I hear people, and like I said, I want to make sure that it is a both thing. I hear it. Yes, Kamala has done some fucked up shit. Kamala is doing some fucked up shit and may continue to do some fucked up shit. No politician has clean hands. I want to make that very clear. None of us do. We all, in some type of way, I'll be transparent and saying, I know what's going on over in Sudan, and I still went and upgraded my phone. We're all part of the problem, right? But what I'm saying is we can only do as much as we can do with what we have. And I've made the decision to say, I'm going to make a decision that I think is going to benefit me so I can continue to fight for liberation in the ways that I think is best for me after November 7th. So I'm just going to say that. So I'm just going to say, when you say that voting doesn't do anything or it doesn't matter, be mindful, be demure, be careful, because there's something like this is just, am I making sense? Or am I just rambling?
Yeah. You're yes, rambling, and yes, making sense. Like, I think yes, you're like, I think you have a lot of feelings about what's happening, and it makes sense as to why you have these feelings. I'll just tack on my hand because it's some of yours, like the distraction that people are giving right now with Jill Stein and with the voting is not mattering. Not mattering is really hard because like it is, because of the day, and I wish people would interrogate Jill Stein more. Like, Jill Stein says nothing up until election season.
Yeah,
Miss Girl is quiet for the next 3 more years.
Miss Girl. Yeah,
Miss Girl will be quiet for 3 more years, and then guaranteed in 2028 she'll pop out the woodwork saying more stuff. And so I believe that she probably has the same politics as many people, but sometimes it feels like lip service because she says all the things that everyone wants to hear that gets people riled up. Right. But like, she does, I have not seen, and I'm someone who's been following Jill Stein for the past cycle. Like, I don't see much from her during like any time in between.
It's the same thing with Bernie Sanders. You got all these critiques, girl, but
you know, and you at least Bernie when he ran, like made points to do stuff before the actual season, right. And so I think it's a distraction that people are doing, and the whole vote not mattering thing is hard too, because I understand. I get what people were saying sometimes of like,
too.
Like in bigger states like California, your vote does not matter because of because electoral college, and then like in swing states. Like, yes. I at theory I understand that. And if you're telling millions of people to not do that, right, then like what might happen if, for example, California does flip, and then the swing states actually are actually null and void now, because then California's flipped from blue to red. And so so it's, you know, it's like all of our actions have consequences. And I do wish people understood that more. I think, you know, and I think you have a really good point of, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to not vote at all. It's a privilege to not vote for Kamala. Like, at the end of the day, there are people who truly feel like their lives are on the line, and voting for Kamala, or in some cases voting for Trump, which I don't understand, could not be me. But some people voting for those folks, like, is a life or death decision. And I actually don't think we can judge people for that at all. Like we actually can't judge folks who feel like who like voting for Kamala is going to save their lives. Like, in very real ways, it actually just might. And so I think like I think you make perfect sense. Like when I say rambling, I just mean like it's so easy to go on about the ways in which this shit is
It
insidious,
is. It is.
nefarious, like it's insidious, and yet and like yes, it all sucks, and we also have to all make choices, and we can't sit here punishing others and and being mad at others like for their choices to do what they feel best for themselves and for the world in which they live. Like
Yeah.
I really wish people stop trying to like because I see, I mean, I don't want people to punish, like don't punish people like for voting for Kamala, and you know, like also like yes, like I don't want to punish people who are uncommitted because that's very real, but I
Right.
do have thoughts about people who intentionally are like fuck all this, I'm just not like I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
it, and like voting
Yeah.
the day, I'm sorry to tell you the voting does matter, especially at local levels. Like your
That's
votes
the
will actually
point that I'm trying to make. Yep.
directly impact your sales
Yep.
tax. It will impact the money that you spend in your economy, in your local economy.
Hmm.
Like your state level, that actually does impact you. Like those actually, your vote actually does matter because you actually will choose, right? Like when yeah, just like these things actually will impact you, especially I say in local levels.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep.
federally is different, but like saying local levels actually will impact you. So definitely vote, girl,
Yeah.
because you don't because then you'll get a big ass tax and be like, who taxed me and why? And then you'll be like, I
Baby,
should have
you
voted.
sign. Yeah, you not saying anything or doing anything is
It's on the
what
dotted
got us
line.
here. Is what got us
Okay.
here. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing. I was gonna just say I'll make a point and then I'll move on because again I know that we're running at time. But I was gonna say like I think about it from the something that just recently happened here in California. Right? Remember when our gas went up and everybody was really mad about it and they were like, oh my God,
Mhm.
our gas prices went up again. It jumped $1. Well, I was like, yeah, y'all didn't vote for
It
that
was on the
measure.
ballot.
It was on the ballot and nobody voted
The
for it.
ballot said, "Don't raise the gas prices," and
Right.
you said,
And
"I don't
nobody
care about
voted.
the
Right.
vote."
Nobody voted for it. And so now we pay $1 extra for gas because so it's like that kind of stuff is the stuff I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
it's not even, I mean, yes, Kamala, and yes, the intricacies of Kamala, but at a local level, like y'all telling people not to vote at a local level is scary,
Yeah, it's
especially when
wild.
we're looking at what is happening across the country to Black and brown and queer and everybody. Like
Yeah.
everybody is at risk here, and and we've the only power we really can have to push back against these systems is to vote. That is one of the
Yep.
biggest ways for us to push
Yep.
back. So I definitely wanted to say that and push that. And I was also going to make a point too in saying that I think about looking at Kamala and looking at all these other pieces of politics. Right, when you get cut or when you get hurt, you put a band-aid on it. And I think that that's really what some of this
Mm.
is. Like we have to look at right now where we're at. We are literally, and I hate saying it this way, but it's the truth. We are bleeding as a country. We are bleeding as a nation. And we are literally hemorrhaging. Am I saying that right? Anyway, a lot of blood is coming out, bitch. Well, a lot of us are dying because
Hemorrhaging,
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 hemorrhaging. Yes, thank you. Yes,
hemorrhaging.
there's a lot of blood everywhere, bitch. And the only way for us to do that is to figure out the band-aids that we can figure out until we can really truly collaborate collectively as people to figure out what's going to work outside of the system that we
Yeah.
have now. And so I'm committed to doing that, and I'm hoping people who are listening too. Now on to the fun. So I did want to say for my yes ma'am, I'm gonna run through this. I initially had a long story I was gonna tell, and I'm like, girl, y'all probably tired of listening to us talk this week. So I'm just like, let me run it. So last week, y'all do like this yes ma'am is personal. I rarely take the time to use my yes ma'ams for something personal, but I just have to shout this out. So many of you know that we were talking about conferences earlier in the show. I, for the last couple of weeks, have had to go to multiple conferences and to multiple things, and I've had to fly. Being on a grant, and you probably know about this too, girl, when you work in nonprofit and you're on
Mhm.
a grant, they limit how much money you can use for certain things.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we're limited on is flying. So with that being said, I've had to use
Mm.
Southwest. Call me elitist, call me anything, but make sure you put DoctorJonPaul in front of it. I hate Frontier, Southwest, and Spirit. I just don't like
Mm.
as a Delta girly who is literally diamond medallion. I don't like flying those airlines. I just don't. But I
Mm.
have to, and because I got to get the work done, right? So last week had to take a flight out on Southwest, and on our way back, Me and my colleague were trying to get an earlier flight because if we didn't take that flight, we would have gotten in around like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, can we just get on an earlier flight? So we did. So we got there, put our name on the list, was trying to get on this earlier flight, and we did. And it was because 3 people didn't show up. Immediately in my big ass head, because you know I'm a big girl, I thought to myself, fuck, we are going to be in the middle if we get on this flight. And that's exactly what happened. I get on the plane, looking around, and all I see are like 3 middle seats. And I'm like, no, I don't want to sit in the middle for an hour and a half. And I kind of like prayed about it and was like, okay, girl, well, you just got to do what you got to do. And as soon as I locked eyes and I asked this lady if I could get into the middle seat, I said, do you mind if I get to the middle seat? The lady got up and she looked at me and she goes, I got you. And she sat down in the middle seat and she let me have her aisle seat.
Girl.
A beautiful Black woman. I don't know who this lady is. I don't know where she is at this point in time. All I know is that she followed me home back to Ontario Airport. And I just want to say, lady, thank you. I want the way I wanted to kiss that lady with consent, of course. But my God, I definitely wanted to shout out that Black lady who literally stood up out of her aisle seat and moved into the middle seat for me and said, I got you, baby. And I just appreciate,
that's wow.
I share that to say, do what you can to not add to people's trauma. Like something so small that you don't even know is going to be a big deal to somebody. You have no idea how that's not going to add to my trauma. Like her doing that did not add to my trauma. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then I did want to say, shout out to Uno Photo here. They are a follower and a listener, and we were trying to figure out what your real name was. If you want to email us your real name, we'll shout you out with your real name. But otherwise, you are a listener and a follower, and you've been with us since day one. And I really want to say thank you so much for that very kind message that you sent. It definitely changed our week. So what you got, baby? What's your yes, ma'am?
You know, my yes, ma'am is just I know I sang the show and I know you'll watch it at some point, but the show Queenie on Hulu, it was just such a good show. I hope they have a second season. Queenie, the character is just super fascinating. I think the same way, a la How Did I Learn, a complex character that was going through a lot, but also was a plus size girl who wasn't who wasn't shamed by people around her for her body. She was told she was beautiful. She believed she was beautiful. The show tackles a lot of complex dynamics of race, interracial dating, also being being from an immigrant family. Her family, I believe they, other than the show, I believe they came to the UK from Jamaica, or the Caribbean, and so there's interesting things in there too. But just a great show. If you haven't watched it, I loved it. It was messy and beautiful, strong, a great arc for the character too. The way in which she handled things, to talk about anxiety, talk about mental health, talk about mental health in Black families, there's a whole arc where her where her grandma has to pick her up for the therapist, and she's like, why? She's like, why'd you even come here? We don't do therapy. And then by the end, her grandma comes around to it and supports her going to therapy.
Okay.
It's a really good show. It's a really good show. So I love it for sure.
Yeah, I definitely am going to put that on my repertoire of to watch. I will say, there are a lot of things I have watched that I'm like, I really wasted my time watching this. And then there are things I'm like, I've heard people say good things. Queenie is another show that I've heard a lot of people say good things about. So I'm like, let me make sure I watch that to support not only Black art, but also support Black stories. Because as you all know, they are going away. And hopefully one day soon we will be able to do a whole entire episode about why that is. So with that being said, thank you, Joho, for sharing that and giving us that as a resource. For anybody else, if you have any thoughts, I'm sure folks have thoughts about this episode. My God, I'm really scared to open up the floodgates on that. But feel free to send your thoughts or your feedback, your email to black.fat.femme@gmail.com. You can also send us your thoughts via social medias by interacting with our post on Instagram and Twitter, or by using our handle Black.Fat.Femme Pod. That's BLK Fat Femme Pod for those who are new. And you can also go over to YouTube and watch us. I will say this, that Our videos are a labor of love. We don't charge for them. There are a lot of people who do. Folks keep it behind the Patreon wall. We don't. So with that being said, like I'm hoping that y'all are watching the videos as much as you are listening to the show on Apple or iHeart Radio. With that being said, Queen Joho, where can the dolls find you?
As usual, y'all can find me at Joho Daniels across every single social that there can be.
Yes, I know that's
If
right.
not there, you'll find me at JohnDaniels.com. And if not there, you will find me at the ballot box shaking my ass for some votes. I know it's not open yet, girl, but I'll be here all month shaking, throwing ass for votes,
Girl.
hyping hoes up for votes, duck walking for votes, like voting the house down. Boost, girl, I am here. I'm behind. You better vote, bitch. You better vote, bitch.
You
Come
better,
on.
yes.
Let me see you vote, bitch. Let me see you serve, bitch.
Yes, mama. Giving this, yes, tits across the board, honey. You got to vote. With that being said, as for me and my big ass, you can catch me down to www.drjonpaul.com or Dr. John Paul all over the social medias. I'm becoming a thread girly, so you'll probably find more of my commentary and my thoughts there, since X is literally falling. Twitter is falling apart at the seams, girl. It is just Twitter has become literally just it. You know how, like, okay, you know when you cook chicken and you know the bottom of the pan gets a little crusty from the oil and all. That's what Twitter has become. Like, Twitter has become very old, nasty, crusty oil, honey. It's not giving what it used to have given. It's sad to watch. So yeah, you'll probably find me and mine's more over at Threads these days, because Twitter's just not giving what it used to once give.
It's not the same.
But with that being said, also you can find us on October 12th. You probably heard the commercial for
promo in the middle.
Yeah, you probably heard at the beginning and during the middle of the show. We're gonna promo one more time down to diversionary.org in San Diego, October 12th. Me and Joho will be doing a live show. We have guests. We have 2 performances, Strawberry Corn Cake and Amber St. James. If you have not listened to the episode with Amber St. James from June, go back and find that episode. It was a really great episode, and I truly appreciate and love them for being who they are. We are now, we've said if folks need help, because we've had folks reach out and say, I can't afford the $15, I can't afford the $20. We do have codes that we can offer for folks, especially if folks have already bought my book. We're happy to give you a code for $10. But yes, the tickets are $15 online and $20 at the door. You can head over to Instagram where you can find the link. Also, shameless plug again, go buy my book. If you got $26 to go to the club, you got $26 to support a Black.Fat.Femme who is trying to make a living off of this damn book. And the reality is this, I will say this, the reason why I've been so vocal and I've been just telling people, it's not about me and making money. The money of this whole book situation is not what I'm in it for. I just want to make it very clear. I get paid more to be on this mic than I did for what I sold that book for. I just want to be clear. What I'm saying is, there will be other opportunities and things to come down the pipeline if my book does well. That in turn will open up doors for me to be able to give, not only for me and Joho to keep doing what we do, but also for us to open up doors to be able to pay other people, other Black.Fat.Femmes, to keep doing the work that we're doing. So I don't say buy the book to be in vain. I say it like, please support me, because I'm thinking about the longer haul of this. I want to be able to create something bigger for us. And if this book does well, I believe, I pray that it will. So I just definitely wanted to say that. All right. With that being said, I want to thank our producer, Bei Wang, for handling all of the logistics, and everyone over at iHeartMedia for keeping the show up and running. We are so thankful and we are so grateful. And every week we never take for granted all of the love and support that you give us. We'd also like to shout out our wonderful editor, Chris Roger, who keeps the show up and running, because without him, there would be no show. There would be no sound. There would be no visuals. We would be sitting in an AMC theater in the dark, the way that we have been waiting for the visuals for Beyonce's Renaissance tour. It's sad, but it's true. This has been another show. See you next week. Stay Black, Fat, Femme, and Fabulous. And remember what, Joho?
But Like Mama told you, it ain't what they call you.
It's what you answer to. I know that's right. All right, honey. Take care,
You got me on that
everybody.
one. I was like,
I love us for real.
I love you.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.